Hi everyone, welcome to this academic success workshop. Today we are going to be presenting me, myself, and I, self-care. In this presentation we will be talking a little bit about self-care and how you can engage in self-care. But first of all, before we begin, my name is Chan K, and I'm an academic coach with supportnet, and I'm also a graduate student in the counseling program.
And hello everyone, my name is Prab and I'm an academic coach here at supportnet, and I'm also a graduate student in counseling program, student affairs and college counseling. A little bit about supportnet is that supportnet provides one-on-one academic coaching to assist students and build academics and lifelong skills. Students can be referred by faculty or staff and assisting in them in personal and or academic goals. And we provide students with strategies, resources, and then assisting them with setting SMART goals. There are other areas that as well that we focus on, such as prioritizing tasks, as well as like helping students understand their learning style. Also, we connect students with different additional resources such as tutoring, supplemental instructions, and many more.
All right, so the objectives for today's academic success workshop. We want to talk a little bit about the importance of self-care and why you all should definitely incorporate some self-care into your day-to-day lives. And then we'll also want to ensure a healthy work, life, and school balance as well, right? We want to make sure we're balancing all the different roles in our life. And we will talk a little bit about how you can prioritize self-care, you know, with all of us being such busy individuals and busy students. You know, we'll talk a little bit about how you can incorporate self-care into your busy schedule as well.
So let's start off with doing a little bit of an activity first. So what we would like you to do is write down things that you enjoy doing for yourself. What are some things, what are some hobbies or anything that you like to do it just for yourself that makes you happy? And you can pause the video right now and then list them.
All right, so hopefully you were able to write a couple of things on that list there about what self-care, you know, you engage in, and hopefully you were able to kind of brainstorm what that looks like. So now we're going to talk about like, what is self-care? What does that mean? So self-care is actually the actions and attitudes which contribute to the maintenance of your well-being and your personal health so that you can develop as a healthy and happy person, right? And in this presentation, we'll be talking about 8 areas of self-care. And I also want you all to keep in mind that self-care is different for everyone. So you may see some examples of self-care, and you know, we want you to be able to pick and choose what works for you, right? And so just keep that in mind that it is different for everyone.
So as Chan mentioned that there are 8 areas of self-care that we will be discussing in, from this point on. And the first area of self-care is the physical self-care. It involves with about the movement of your body, health, nutrition, sleep, and other parts of physical well-being. So making sure that you're physically okay. And that can include with such as like learning new dance routine, going for a walk, getting enough sleep. If you have a busy schedule, like planning out what maybe your nap times, that if that's possible, or even planning out like when time you want to go to bed, and being self-accountable, holding yourself self-accountable for that list, and maybe taking a bath, and also eating well-balanced nutrition meal. And these are all about us being physically and okay, and just focus on our physical well-being.
All right, and the next self-care is psychological self-care. So this actually involves learning new things, exercising your brain, or applying consequential thinking, engaging in intrinsic motivation, practicing mindfulness, and allowing yourself to engage in creativity. And a few examples of that will pop up right here on the screen. One great way to engage in all of this is journaling. So you can journal, about your day-to-day events, and then just reflecting on your emotions, how you felt in that moment. If you're someone who likes to engage in creativity, you can also paint, draw, or do some creative writing, right? Writing some poems or maybe even a short story, or just reading a book. Finding a quiet and safe space in your home or wherever you can, uh, anywhere, and then just reading that book there. And then, or learning or teaching a new skill. And another one you can do is deep breathing exercises. It helps you to kind of just relax and engage in that mindfulness, and then just also just relieving some of that stress you may be experiencing.
And the third self-care is emotional self-care, which is enhancing emotional literacy and increasing empathy and managing stress. And examples of these be like saying no when it's possible, or like just to avoid overcommitment, making sure that you're placing yourself up front. And maybe journaling and reflecting on emotions again can help you with emotional self-care. It's just writing down how you felt in that moment. If you whatever the feelings that came up during that time, and writing them. Also, practicing self-compassion and patience with yourself. It's just part of being and letting yourself know that it is okay. Some things might require a lot more patience, and being okay with that, being okay with the process of, maybe if you're planning on learning something new, learning new technique, learning new skills, it all requires patience with ourselves. And also being aware of your own boundaries, and it could be just with personal boundaries, as well as professional boundaries, just making sure being aware of those.
Okay, so the next area of self-care is social self-care. This involves having a supportive group, a network of relationships around you whom you trust and turn to when required. So when you think of supportive group, think of people who have been there for you, who you can rely on and depend on, to help you through tough times. And some of these can include asking for help when you need it. If you're having struggles in your school, seeing who can help you with your assignments, whether that's tutoring or SI here on campus, or maybe you have an older sibling who may have already taken the course or have some sort of knowledge. They can be a great resource where you can ask for help, or just in general, if you need help with assistance on a task, don't be afraid to ask for help when you need it. And then just meeting new people, building that social circle, finding new people with the same interests as you. That way you can engage in conversation. It's nice to have conversation with other people, right? And then just going for a walk with your family or your friends, maybe just going outside to your backyard if you have a backyard and just soaking up some sun, or just maybe walking around your neighborhood, or going to the park and doing that with people you care about.
So now we will discuss professional self-care, which involves sharing your strengths and gifts, and having clear professional boundaries, and living your purpose, and which basically sharing your strength as a student, if you would like, maybe helping your peers, and then sharing your strengths with them. And if you are in professional role, or sharing your strengths with your colleague, your skills with colleague, and then seeing how they do things differently, or are they similar. And some of the examples could be knowing your roles and responsibility, having attending professional development or mentorship, also eating nourishing meals every day, even for your lunch, and also negotiating your needs, knowing where your clear boundaries are, and then and letting your supervisor or letting your colleagues know what are those, and also sharing. Maybe if you will, if you have the space, maybe just setting some time to getting to know the colleagues as well, if that's what you like to do.
The next area of self-care is environmental self-care. So this includes having an organized, well-maintained, and clutter-free week, home, or your occupational environment, which is your job, right? Um, so this is important, especially if we have a desk at home where it's our workspace. You want to make sure that place is organized, keeps your space clutter free, and then just having a sense of cleanliness. And then just also monitoring your technology time. Sometimes we have, our phone right next to us and we're always wanting to check it, checking our social media, going on TikTok. And sometimes that can turn from a couple minutes of viewing to, maybe an hour or hours. And that takes away a lot of our productive work time. And then also cleaning up after your meal. When you're having dinner and then you're done with your plate, maybe taking that 2 minutes to clean that dish so that way your sink is just free of dirty dishes and you can just go on to your next thing for the night and without having to worry about having to clean all that up. And then just maintaining a clean and safe environment. All of that is very important to environmental self-care.
So now we'll talk about spiritual self-care, which involves for your beliefs and values that are important to you and that guides your life. And it could be just like meditating. That's where you can practice your mindfulness. Reflecting in your journal what is important to you, what are your beliefs, what values to you, as a student, as a person, as a colleague, and knowing those, and volunteering at maybe at local organization or on campus, going for on a retreat as well, and walking in the nature such as at a local park. And these are all about what your beliefs and values and where you can guide yourself.
Financial self-care. So this involves being responsible with your finances, having a conscious relationship with money, such as budgeting and just knowing what income comes in and when it goes out. So this can include, as I mentioned, when you know your income is coming in. So if you're working a job that pays bi-weekly, just knowing that that Friday of that week you're going to get paid, and then just making sure that the money's there and kind of planning out what you're going to spend it on, and then just also knowing when bills are due and paying them on time. That's very important. If having a planner or an Excel sheet, and then just putting the dates of when your bills are due, and setting up a calendar reminder, that way you make sure you pay them on time. And also saving money wisely and budgeting. It's good to know how much money you have left over, that way you don't overdraft your account. And it's best to avoid that unnecessary stress that you don't want to experience. And we do have a resource on campus here at the Career Development Center. They have what's called the Money Management Center. If you feel like you can engage in financial self-care a little bit and that's something you can improve on, the Money Management Center is a great resource on campus to help build financial literacy if that's a resource you'd like to use.
And now we would like you to do a little bit of reflection. And on the left side, there are list of all the self-cares that we went through today. And so referring back to 8 areas and then seeing what areas of self-care you utilize the most. And you can refer back to the list that you made in the beginning as well. And you can pause for a little moment and then check and see what areas you fall under.
All right, so now we're going to talk a little bit about why is self-care important, why you should definitely take the time to just engage in the 8 areas of self-care for your betterment. One is to avoid burnout. If you don't take the time to take care of yourself and you're constantly working or just doing things and putting others before you, you may experience some exhaustion or even avoidance. You want to start avoiding these responsibilities because now it just causes you exhaustion, right? And then you may even experience some forgetfulness. You want to keep in mind that it's important to maintain healthy relationships, right, with you, your work, the people in your life, engaging in that social self-care that we talked a little bit about earlier. So, you know, there's a quote right down the right side of the screen. Self-care is so important. When you take time to replenish your spirit, it allows you to serve others from the overflow, and you cannot serve from an empty vessel. So think of self-care as a bottle of water. If you just keep giving water to everybody else, and then next thing you know, that cup is empty and you haven't given any up to yourself. It's important, right? You know, you want to keep yourself hydrated in water. So keep in mind to give some to others, but also to give some to yourself as well.
And now let's talk about ways to incorporate self-care. And it's like we mentioned before, self-care looks different for everyone. And taking some time out to plan out your self-care, maybe in a weekly, if you have a weekly schedule, or somewhere in your calendar, whether it's digital calendar or paper calendar, making a note that you would like to plan out your self-care. Also writing down your activities that you like to do for yourself and planning out what you would be doing, putting some time just for yourself, spending some time with your support system. It could be your friends, it could be your family, it could be maybe a colleague that you're close to, that you would like to have a discussion about something. And also practicing mindfulness and taking a walk, just going, stepping outside, just to your backyard, to your, in your, maybe in your neighborhood, if, or the local park as well. Utilizing different apps. There are many of apps where you can, that can help you with meditation. They can help maybe like track how much you walk, also breathing exercise.
Now we have another reflection activity that we want you all to engage in. So the question is, what would you like to incorporate in your self-care regimen? So thinking about the 8 areas of self-care, what area or areas that you feel like you could improve on? So we want you to go ahead and pause the video at this moment here, take a minute or two, write down, you know, a couple of things you can improve on and what you can do in those areas. All right, hopefully you were able to kind of think about some areas that you could work on in terms of self-care and maybe some, you know, things you can do for that. So now we're going to go into what's called a deep breathing exercise and show you what one simple self-care activity can kind of help you. So this is called the 4-4-8 rule, and you can do this at any time and anywhere, you know, in between homework or at your desk or while you're watching TV. So what this rule is basically you breathe in slowly as you count to 4. So that's the first 4. You want to take in a huge deep breath and then just slowly taking that air into your lungs. And then you want to hold that breath for 4 more seconds. And then once that 4 seconds is over, now you want to exhale on the count of 4 slowly. And then once you've let all that air out, you want to hold it for another 4 seconds. And then you want to repeat this from the step 1, breathing in slowly and then continuing on. And you want to keep doing this for a few minutes until you start to feel yourself relaxed. And then the muscle tension in your shoulders and your body are gone. Then you'll start to feel a little lighter. And you can do this as you're closing your eyes as well. So again, the 4-4-8 rule is a deep breathing exercise, and it'll definitely help you to kind of release some tension and some stress you may be experiencing.